All right, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to be meeting with people today, the Saturday before the Super Bowl. The big game's happening tomorrow. My favorite part about that is the commercials and the food. Not a huge football fan myself, but looking forward to some good company and good food tomorrow. Hopefully everyone has some fun plans. Um, so what are we talking about today? We're going to dive into something that's been months in the making. I call it the Empty Nesters Roadmap. And this is a tool that kind of meets you where you're at and walks you through whatever stage you're in, going through some action items that you can take to move to the next best step. That's something that coaching really does is meets you where you're at and tries to pull you forward into a better place, the best possible place that you can be. And for me, empty nester is, it was the hardest time in my life. And so that's why I've chosen to really focus on people going through it. So without further ado, I'll go into some of the reasons why empty nesters are so important to me. This is a few pictures of me and my kids. So you can see I got COVID myself in December 2020. It was a scary time. There's a picture of my boys there with masks. They were working construction in Texas at the time. Um, and it just was a really dark time for me. I kind of got stuck. And I wished I had someone that I could have talked to about it to move me forward. And through that process, I just really learned what it takes for myself to move forward from the darkness into the light. And luckily, my boys have been there for me every step of the journey. We still are very close. One of them is now married and expecting my first grandbaby. So a lot of changes, and there's always celebrations, even when things are changing. So that's why empty nesters are important to me. Let's talk about why this event is basically perfect for you. It's perfect for you if you want to put on a mindset of intentionality around relationships in your life. This could be relationships with your adult kids, a spouse, changing relationships that are all around you. We face them through the different seasons in life. So we're going to talk through being intentional in relationships. It's perfect for you if you're feeling a wide variety of emotions. Empty nesters go through positive emotions like pride and relief that the kids are gone, to a sense of disappointment that the season is changing, anxiety, or even depression as they navigate the change. It's perfect for you if you're grieving the loss or shift in dynamics with a loved one, which has left a void. This event is not for you if you want tips on how to fix someone else. Working on relationships is an issue where we have to really focus on us. Or if you want a quick fix to relationship challenges are part of it, so it's not a quick fix. Or if you think fulfilling relationships is someone else's responsibility. So, a little bit more about me. I am the founder of Better Together Life Coaching. I was a single mom for many years. I raised the boys from age 3 and 5 to they're now 24 and 26. And they left in the middle of the pandemic, as I mentioned. And so we were all isolating. Everyone was dealing with the fear of the death toll rising. And it just was a really tough time for everybody. But for me to go from an empty or to go from a full house full of dirty dishes and socks everywhere and, boys to cook for, to a very quiet experience where I didn't see a single human for months on end. And it was a big transition for me. I found that I did need someone or something to pour my love into. So I got a dog. I'm a dog mom. That beautiful boy right there is Oliver. He's a mini golden doodle, perfect puppy for me. And I decided to go back to school. I always had a goal, kind of this dream in my heart to get a PhD in psychology. My dad taught psychology, and it's just really interesting to me to figure out why we do the things that we do, why our brains are wired the way that they are. And I've been having a blast at Grand Canyon University learning about psychology. And I did decide to leave a almost 30-year career at a Fortune 500 company where I got a nice title. I was a vice president and a senior consultant. 30 years with the bank gave me a lot of experience coaching. I coached around sales and leadership and really found a passion for helping people to unlock their potential and get things that they want, accomplish dreams and goals. But I left to start this company because I want to help people with their life. I want to create happiness and joy in more ways than just at work. So I've been having a blast doing that and really finding some big breakthroughs that can happen when you have a coach holding a space for you to just talk about your unique experience. And like I said, pull you forward, help you, uncover things, get rid of all the lies and the labels that we put on ourselves. It's a really great thing. So I did get some additional coaching certifications through the International Coaching Federation. And yeah, I've just been helping empty nesters navigating relationships as they change and find fulfillment and purpose in this new chapter. So today, what are we going to get into? We're going to talk about embracing the shift. There are a lot of emotions that happen, and one of my clients said that the emotions were so big that she just got stuck and it was hard to move forward. So we're going to talk through why does that happen and how can we do some mindset shifting. I'll have some tips to help you with your mindset so that it's a little easier. We'll walk through the why of it all. Why do we go through so many emotions? And then I'll share the 3 steps of the empty nesters roadmap to kind of talk through some different stages you might be experiencing yourself. So to get the most out of today, keep an open mind about the new information. Empty nester is a very personal experience and it's different for everybody. So I might be talking about a stage you've already gone through and you're done. You've passed through it and you're on to the next. I'll get to the stage that you're in and there will be some tips that make sense to you. I encourage you to turn off your phone, close out other apps and all the distractions, and just use this time to treat yourself, invest in yourself to just learn some new things. And then at the end, we'll have some good Q&A to just see where you're at and see what's on your mind. Along the way, if you want to type any questions you have into chat, we can make sure to save them there and we'll get to them at the end. And then finally, I do have some journal prompts that I'll send out after the meeting today. But I built in some time to get you to start thinking through the stages. So we'll have a few minutes to do some journaling if you prefer, if you are ready to start. So you can grab a pen and a piece of paper, and we'll have some time to just kind of have these concepts start to really sink into your psyche and make sense to you on how to acknowledge things and move forward. So pen and paper would be helpful if you're open to doing that. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, one call, one meeting, one webinar isn't going to solve everything. What if it doesn't work? I have a lot of clients that right on that decision point of should I hire a coach or should I seek coaching or even open my mind to this concept, there's a lot of fear that comes in. It's scary to think, well, what if it doesn't work? Or, maybe my experience is so unique and nobody's going to get me. All of those thoughts might be going through your head, and I just encourage you to acknowledge them. I always say never ignore your emotions, your feelings, your perspective. But when you walk away today, you will have some new insights on commonalities. So you won't feel like you're the only one going through this. There's a lot of commonalities. You'll hear how other people experience things and understand why it happens. That's very helpful, I find, is just why do I feel this way? And then you will walk away with some actionable tips. And if I could just have one thing that you walk away from, you're going to create intention behind how you want to navigate change. Because there's so much emotion as an empty nester, I see a lot of fractured relationships that when there's a strong emotion, for me as a single mom, I had a ton of them, right? And if I poured those emotions into my boys and told them everything I was experiencing, I don't know that we would still have a healthy relationship today. So the intentionality of how you want to be as you navigate this change will not only help you, but will help some of the relationships in your life to stay strong. So that's what I am hoping everyone's going to get out of the event today. And let's just dive right into step one of the roadmap, which is embracing the shift. You can't really move past step one if you don't acknowledge your feelings and just take the time to feel and experience them. And the journal prompts will help you start if you haven't started processing some of this yet. But the emotions go all over the place from those positive pride and relief. Yes, I did it, right? Kids are out of the house, woohoo, to a feeling of bereavement and grief and loss. And these emotions aren't as socially acceptable as the pride and the relief. People that hear you say, man, this is really hard, might be asking, well, what's so hard about it? Like your kids are out of the house, you did your job. Why are you sad? Well, you're sad because a lot of things are changing. The energy in your home has shifted. I had one client say, her daughter moved out, and it was just her and her daughter, and they were best of friends. And her daughter moved away, and it was this huge shift that just left a big void in her life. She had no one to cook for anymore, no dirty dishes in the sink, and it's just different. And so it's normal to feel a little sad or a lot sad. Some people get stuck here. And the emotions could create a feeling of overwhelm. And when you're overwhelmed, you do this downward spiral of thinking where you're disappointed in something. And it could be as simple as, my kid doesn't text me back quick enough, or why didn't they call me about this big important thing in their life? It's a shift. Before, they needed you for everything. They asked for your advice, your opinion, they needed you. And now they're starting to figure out their own life, right? So if you're disappointed, that could lead to depression. And depression is an inward focused anger. You're mad, but it's directed at yourself. And you go into this almost pity party, why me space where it's very dangerous and you can get stuck there and you can isolate. Again, for me, it was in the pandemic. So it was too easy to stay alone and not connect with others. And so the other emotion is guilty. I had a client who said, I feel guilty because I know she's doing great things now out in the world. And I know that that was my job as a mom. And I feel guilty that I'm sitting here thinking, what if I never find joy again? She really had this big transition time of grief, and it took her a while to get out of it. So if any of that speaks to you, know that you're not alone. And I'm going to share with you some shifts that you can do as you start to go down that downward spiral of thinking. It starts with the disappointment. Something didn't go the way you wanted it to. And instead of going all the way down to the bottom, I'm going to teach you some things that can shift it. So as you embrace the shift, I have a couple roads there, and the roads are to illustrate what's happening in your brain. The brain loves boring. The brain likes to have things just be normal. And so when something changes and shifts, you have to form new pathways in your brain. And when you do that, it's not easy. It's hard. Your brain doesn't like it. It's like, wait a second, can't we just go back to what we were doing before? And that's not always possible. So when you first make a change and try something new, it's a narrow pathway. It's not a big one yet. You're trying something new. For example, I went to a women's networking event recently, and when I walked in the room, it was like, what if they don't like me? Am I wearing the right thing? Are we eating? Like, what are we going to expect today? I had no idea what to expect, so it was uncomfortable. It was hard. But as you continue trying and you get out there and you try new things, that narrow pathway becomes wider and it gets easier and easier. And pretty soon it's like a big freeway. You just put your car in cruise control and you just go. Now I show up to these networking events and I know this person and that person, and it's easier. So As you embrace the shift, know that there's going to be some hard moments at first, but just step into it, be brave, get out there, try new things, and you're really going to find a lot more joy in life. Um, and this is the mindset shift. Number two, there, that second bullet point. What you focus on expands. And if you can believe it, gratitude and anxiety, depression, all of those negative emotions, they cannot coexist. They can't both be in your brain at the same time. So when you're starting to feel disappointment, the mindset shift is to jump into today, get into the moment. Don't think about the past. Don't worry about the future. Be here in the moment. And if you're here in the moment and you can think of one thing you're grateful for, it's going to stop that negative spiral. And it sounds simple, but as you do it and practice it, you're rewiring, you're retraining your brain instead of going down that negative pathway. You're not going into the past, and it's good to have memories, right? It's good to have things to think about that has happened in your life that are positive. But as empty nesters, if you stay there for too long, it can lead to some negative emotions. So instead, be here today, be grateful for what you have today. And it could be as simple as, oh, look, the sun came out, the sky is blue today, or find something to be grateful for. And that's part of the journal prompts that we're going to do here in a minute. Avoid that downward spiral of disappointment, depression, and that self-centered depression of isolation. Okay. So that's the first stage, is really embracing the shift. So here's the journal activity. And I'm going to turn the camera off and stop talking for 1 to 2 minutes. We won't do it for too long, but I really want to make sure you have the chance to start to write down your experience. So the first journal prompt on step 1 is, what emotions have you experienced since your child moved out? Write it down and don't judge yourself. Write down the good, the bad, the ugly. What emotions have you experienced? Secondly, reflect on the milestones that your child has achieved that makes you proud. And take a minute to write down how you contributed to that success. And then finally, to help you with the rewiring of your brain in those tough moments, write down 10 things that you are grateful for in this phase of life. I'll turn off the camera and be quiet. Take a few minutes here to write down your thoughts, and I'll come back in just a minute or two. Okay, that was 2 minutes. So I encourage you, if you started really getting into the flow with these questions, that as soon as we're done today, that you go back to these prompts and you write a little bit more, because they can really help. And we'll jump into step number 2 of the Empty Nesters Roadmap, which is to declutter and discover. Decluttering is important to make room for things that will bring you joy. And decluttering could be in your physical space, could be relationships in your life that are no longer serving you. And it could just be those mental thoughts that are cluttering up your mind, or emotions that are keeping you stuck. I had one client talk about, she had these pictures that she'd walk by every single day. She'd walk out of her bedroom, and in the hall, there were a bunch of pictures that just made her feel sad. They were, pictures of when the kids were younger. And because they weren't bringing her joy, she changed them out. She simply took down the pictures that made her sad and replaced them with some pictures of her adult kids and grandkids. And that small decluttering, that small, bringing joy into her physical space really made a big difference for her. So when you think about things that are in your home, even your car, everywhere that you spend time in your physical space, what are some things that might be cluttering up that you need to get rid of? Is it time to go through a closet, top of your refrigerator, right? Like, are there things that you're holding on to that don't bring you joy? You've heard Oprah talk about it, right? You pick up something, and if it doesn't bring you joy, you get rid of it. So start to think about things that might be cluttering up your day, your life, your home, your experience. And then when you do declutter, and you start to discover things that bring you joy, things that you want to bring more of into your life, more of into your day. Could be painting on a wall. It could be a new experience. It could be a new relationship, a new circle, right? Rediscovering goals and your purpose is important. A big part of life coaching is talking about your purpose. For me, raising my boys as a single mom was pretty much my biggest purpose in life. And when they moved out, I started thinking, well, now what, right? What's my purpose now? It's not raising these kids because one of them has a wife and she's really, taken over. My son doesn't ask me for hardly anything anymore. And that's good. That's okay. Now we can just share a different type of an experience together. But I have different purposes that I'm stepping into and I'm living, and they're bringing me a lot of joy. So, thinking through what is your purpose and rediscovering things that bring you joy is an important part of an empty nester's roadmap or stage of life. So, the last bullet point there is just lighten your load, get rid of it. I know I had to do a lot of relational work, relationship work with people that I'm not sure why I hung on to them as long as I did. It wasn't a healthy relationship for me or for them. So when you think about people that you give access to, your heart, your time, your mind, your energy, it might be something to consider changing, making some changes. Um, and this is my favorite part of my life coaching business. I spend a lot of time talking about love, and I hadn't heard of the term agape love until maybe 3, 4 years ago. And agape love is just that love where you don't even expect it back. You give it so freely that it's just who you are and it's just how you go through life. And it's not easy to come from that place when you're hurting. And I talked a little bit before about relationships that are fractured. If you can put on that feeling of love, and I had a client yesterday, we talked about her daughter. Her daughter's still in the house and she's, in that teenage phase and very negative, right? And when her daughter comes in and just pours all the negativity in, she wants to be the mom and say, be positive, stop with the negative. It's too much. I want a happy home. But we practice when the daughter goes negative, putting on the feeling of, you know what, I love her so much, and just changing the demeanor and the intention of being the mom saying, be positive. That's never going to work. But if you can love her through it, maybe she'll rise up to the feelings of positivity that you have. Um, so love heals and restores relationships. It prevents those unnecessary fractures. And really, if you want to intentionally navigate through this time as an empty nester, it's going to help give you that clarity and purpose that you need when you remember, oh, yeah, I really love these kids. That's why it's so hard. Or I really love my spouse, and that's why we got married. But man, we're in each other's faces a lot more now. So, how do we need to change that? Um, Love has a lot to do with it, and it can make things a lot easier if we can stay in a loving frame of mind. So let's look at some journal prompts here for this stage. And I put 4. I think that declutter, like this stage, you're done really having the strong emotions. They'll still come back a little bit, but they're not as strong. You've acknowledged them. You've moved into decluttering and discovering what brings you joy. Um, this is a place you can stay for a while. I have one client who's like every day she has a goal to just get dressed. She says, I get dressed all the way up to, like when in this day and age, you might do a lot of virtual work and it's easy to just wear yoga pants all the time or sweatpants. So, anyway, she's discovering that getting dressed is an important part of her joy. So journal prompts. Here's the 4. What is one way that I can brighten up a room in the house? Just one thing you can do. Get rid of something, add something, paint a wall. What is one thing you can do to brighten up a room in the house? And then what activities, dreams, or hobbies did I set aside while raising my children? And then what relationships or activities are no longer serving me? And don't feel like you have to act on it right away, but just acknowledge what might be some relationships or activities that are no longer serving me. And then who can I trust to express my deep emotions with? I shared that I had some strong ones, and sharing it all with my boys probably wouldn't have ended well, but I needed to get it out. I'm a very emotional person. I definitely need to have that outlet. So who can I trust to express my deep emotions with? I'll be quiet for a couple minutes to give you time to think, and we'll come back together here in about 2 minutes. That was 2 minutes. And again, I'll send these journal prompts out after the meeting today so that you have them if you really want to devote some time to digging into them later today or when it feels right. Let's move into the step 3, which is probably the most fun step. You've gotten rid of things that aren't serving you. You're being intentional about relationships. The emotions are getting easier to deal with, and now you can really reignite your purpose. One thing I do, and there's several books out there to help with this, and there's even apps that you can use, is create a mindset routine. And I do mine in the morning. There's a really good book called Miracle Morning that talks about some routines that you can do. But taking the time to speak affirmations, I am beautifully and wonderfully made. I am having so much fun in my life. I am bringing joy and love and hope into my day. All of those affirmations can really help to put you in the best frame of mind as you move through your day. Declarations, these are things that you will do. So a declaration is, I will bring the best version of myself into every relationship that I have today. Prayer is a good one. I know my faith is an important part of my life, and I spend time in prayer every day. And then journaling, there's so much power in getting it out. And it's fun to go back and look at, some of the journal entries that were early on in 2020 for me compared to what they are now in 2025. And, I've grown so much, I've come so far, and it's really fun to be able to have that journal to go back on. In this step, pursuing your passions and being purposeful about it. They could be small passions, they could be big ones like getting your PhD. Small ones for me, I like doing puzzles, and I have time now. And so I just set up a space and do different puzzles. And I'm finding different ways of just expressing myself and spending time being purposeful and finding new passions. Intentionally seek joy. I don't know if you've heard of having a word for the year, but it's a very powerful practice because what you focus on expands. And if you have a word that, for me, I write it every single day, and it helps me to remember how I want to be as I go through the day. So pick a word of the year, and I actually did, you can find on my website a couple of questions to help you identify what your word is, word of the year. That gives you a good mindset. And then finally, create community. Who do you want to be around? And this one, if there's only one thing you do in this journey as an empty nester, I've talked about the danger of isolation. Connecting with people intentionally is going to bring in the most joy, and it's the hardest one. It's easy to just say, no, I'm going to stay on my couch today, or I'm going to stay here today. I don't really feel like going out. I don't feel like meeting new people. But as you start to join different groups, different circles, and start saying yes more, you never grow if you always say no, is a fun saying I really like. But just get out there, create your own community, create your circle of friends, find people that, you know, are in a similar space. When I was doing market research for just understanding empty nesters, there's some strong feelings of, I want a community, but I don't have grandkids. So I don't want people that have grandkids because all I do is talk about their grandkids. Or, I'm not married, and if someone's married, it's just a different experience. So you can create the community that you want by being intentional and just getting out there and trying new things. I've been playing pickleball. Pickleball is so much fun. It's a great way to be active, but it's also bringing new relationships into my life. So create a community. Who do you want to be around? You have more control over it than you think. Um, and so in this step, we talked about that morning routine. I work with my clients on filling up. So like pour into yourself and fill up your cup so you can pour into others. If you don't fill up first and you try to pour into others, there's this thing that a lot of women go through. It's called people pleasing. We want to make everyone around us happy. Maybe that's something you've done once or twice in your life. But when you don't fill up yourself first, it's impossible to be the best version of yourself with others. So fill up first, then you can live in purpose. You can live your journey in a much better place than if you're empty and not filling yourself up or not being filled up. That question of how do you want to show up in relationships? If you journal about it, if you think about it, and if you're intentional about it, you're going to have much richer relationships. We've talked about it. I won't beat the dead horse here, but how do you want to show up? And then finally, what do you want more of? This is the word for the year. What do you want to bring more of into your life? Is it joy? Is it hope? Is it love? Is it passion? Is it momentum? Is it, whatever that is, really think about, journal about what do you want more of? It's going to be a good mindset as you move forward. So here's the journal prompts for this one. What is something new I can try this month? Just pick one thing that you can try this month. What activities, dreams, or hobbies did I set aside while raising my children? What brings me joy and fulfillment outside of parenting? And then what is one way to grow my network of friends? So again, I'll be quiet here for a few minutes and then I'll turn the camera back on and we'll wrap up here and get into Q&A here in just a minute. That was step number 3. So we have got through each step of the Empty Nesters Roadmap. And if you don't have the actual copy of the Empty Nesters Roadmap, I think it's 9 pages. I will share the link with you here in a minute because it has some additional journal prompts and actions for each step. But today we talked about common challenges and emotions that we face as empty nesters. Talked a little bit about why it happens. You're not alone. And then we walked through the 3 steps of the roadmap, which is embracing the shift, decluttering and discovering, and then reigniting your purpose. Now, I'd be a bad coach if I didn't at least invite you to having a discovery call with me. And this is a no pressure call. You can share with me your unique experience. I'm going to meet you where you're at, no matter what stage it is. There's actually a bonus step of the roadmap that I'm creating right now where it's navigating relationships with adult children. That's an area I coach a lot of people around, but I don't have any, written tools out yet, but it's coming soon. But if you have this one-on-one with me, we'll clarify your particular goals. And a lot of people get a lot out of this 1 hour time with me. And it's 1 hour and that's the extent of it. Or you might decide, you know what, I really want to explore life coaching and see what it can do for me. So you'll learn more about my coaching practice and see if we're a good fit. One testimonial I love to share. This is Michelle. Michelle was having a hard time around the holidays, and she worked with me in my life coaching program. Here's what she had to say after a couple months. She said, Barbara has been incredible helping me navigate life as an empty nester. Her guidance gave me clarity, confidence, and a renewed sense of purpose. Each session with her was filled with actionable steps and encouragement. I always left feeling inspired and empowered. I've rediscovered my passions and I actually feel excited about this new chapter. Cannot recommend Barbara highly enough. Um, I have my website there. If you haven't checked that out, I have a blog. I've got a newsletter. I've got a YouTube channel that I try to post helpful videos to keep those mindsets going. So you can find more on my website there. The other call to action, if you will, that I'm going to share with you today is I have group coaching sessions. If one-on-one isn't what you're looking for, a lot of people want that sense of community and knowing that there's other people going through similar things. Group coaching can be a great way to not only get what you need, but also hear from other people and kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So if that's something that interests you, I will make sure to get you the link for that as well. We meet every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. But we're kind of playing with the time to make sure it fits the best for everyone. I've had some requests to go earlier, some requests to go later, but right now it's Wednesdays at 10. And because you joined the live event today, actually have a special offer for you. So if you want to hear more, let me know and I'll tell you what that special offer is. And all right, that moves us to our Q&A time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the recording here and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So let's